Happy New Year's Eve 2021. Hopefully going to be some better records for us. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy. As always, this is episode 104 of The Next Best Bet. And let's get into how we did in episode 103 real quick, Brett. I went 3-5. My parlay did not hit. A pick of the pod yet again, not hitting. I'm going to get it right one of these days. Finally, Brooklyn in the NBA got me a basketball win, which I've been searching for recently. How'd you do?
There you go, a nice little win on Christmas Day. And Brooklyn looked good on Christmas Day. They haven't looked good since, though, Higgins. So you bought in on the right day.
And I cashed out on the right day as well.
There you go. Yeah, nice. I didn't do so well in that game. I picked Boston, so that wasn't great. Michigan State has burned me twice since our last podcast. Actually, really burned me. So I'm glad I didn't give out any advice on them, Higgins, because behind closed doors, they may have been suggesting that they were a good bet. They were never a good bet. They were always a bad bet. I think I'm off Michigan State. I think I can burn my conference championship ticket as well, Higgins.
Well, you went 3-2. I went 3-5. So you had a little bit better restraint than I did. Here's to hopefully 2021 bringing some better restraint as well. And we're going to try to offer some different statistics on our ongoing stats for the year of 2021. Start with another clean slate again. See how we do for a brand new year. What do you think of that?
That sounds good to me. Let's do it.
All right. And then Beginners Boulevard, we're going to talk about the matchup this episode. A matchup bet is a wager where the sportsbook picks out two different competitors and asks you to pick which one of the two you think is going to outperform the other. And this is great with individual performance type sports like golf, for example.
Yeah, in golf, it could be which of the two golfers is going to score lower. In basketball, it could be which of the two players will score more. So, kind of good things to look at as we turn the corner here from football season. Golf picks up in a week, Higgins. Basketball's going on now. You can sometimes find these matchups bets at your sportsbook.
Absolutely, but we still have some college football going on, so let's talk about that. Golf is coming. We'll talk about that in a few weeks, few episodes. But we got the college football playoffs coming up, and actually a New Year's Day game that's not a part of those first two that I like as well. This Georgia versus Cincinnati game, Brett. Now I've talked about Cincinnati a few times. Won with Cincinnati quite a few times. They're 9-0 on the season. I think they're going to upset the Bulldogs and get the win here, even though they're plus 220 on the money line. And that's because I feel like this is a game where players on Georgia that may be preparing for the NFL draft would potentially sit out when they're playing a team like Cincinnati. Whereas Cincinnati, a mid-major team, this is the team that you get up to go play for. You want to add this to your NFL resume, add it to what the scouts are going to look at. So I really feel like 220, some pretty good value, and I'm looking at this kind of as a parlay, not necessarily an actual parlay, but assurance with another underdog that I will be picking, because all I have to do is win one of them and it covers enough for both of the bets.
All right, well, hopefully that Cincinnati comes home then, Higgins, but let's get to the college football playoff, because those are the four games that we can kind of look ahead and guarantee no one's going to sit out. We're recording this as Florida and Oklahoma are playing, Higgins, and hopefully none of the quarterbacks watch Kyle Trask in this one, because they may get a little cough or may tweak something in warm-ups. You never know.
Well, Trask was without his top 4 receiving targets, so he had some very big troubles early. We'll see if he's able to pull that out. You and I are watching that game right now. But New Year's Day, some beautiful games. There's also that Auburn-Northwestern game if you're interested in the Citrus Bowl. But Notre Dame, Alabama, and Ohio State, Clemson, the two games in the college football playoff. And Brett, this feels like a game that the Buckeyes win. First off, they were disrespected publicly by Dabo Swinney ranking them, what, 11th?
Yeah, that was crazy.
11th? Disrespectful. Coach Ryan Day is obviously going to use that as fuel, whether it be personally or in the locker room with his entire team. But then also, you've had Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, you've had DJ as backup at quarterback, and I don't know, for some reason, it doesn't just feel like Clemson's year. It honestly feels like Alabama's year to me. But this feels like Ohio State may be fresher considering they only had to play 6 games and Clemson actually did play a full slate. So people have argued maybe Ohio State doesn't deserve this seeding because they only played 6 games. But you know what? They got the seeding, so let's not argue about that. Let's see. This team actually is good enough. Are they being valued it on the books? And I think plus 245 on the money line, that's enough value for me that I'll take that there as well. And so if that or my Cincinnati pick wins, it covers the other one potentially losing. And if both of them hit, that's nearly 5 full units off of just 2 bets.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way to play it. I like Ohio State in this one too. I'm leaning that way. I haven't decided how I'm gonna bet it, Higgins. I don't know if it's gonna be the plus 7.5. I don't know if it's gonna be on the money line like you, or I'm even considering another way, including championship odds, where Ohio State right now is plus 590 to win the championship. I could bet that, and then I could pretty much just take Alabama on the money line. And I don't expect him to be anything more than minus 590. So I would come out about even depending on how I bet it, right? So I could kind of hedge my way out of it, the championship game.
Or if you bet Ohio State on those championship odds, if they were to win this first round matchup against Clemson, you could probably cash that out early at a reduced rate, probably around that 245, maybe at like a 230. So 10 wins 23, 100 wins 230, something like that. I could see. But yeah, plus 590 is great. And then I said I think it feels like Alabama's year, minus 150 for a year that just feels that way. I mean, Smith winning the AP Player of the Year as a wide receiver, that says something right there. They have 2 players in the Heisman finalist list. Minus 150 on the championship odds really does not feel bad for the overall favorite in this.
No, I mean, Alabama is. It really does feel like they're you're right, Higgins. They're the team to beat. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, but they're minus 19.5 in a semifinal game. The last time a spread was that big, though, Ohio State beat Alabama outright. They were 20.5 point dogs, 21 point dogs, something like that, the last time they met. So, or the last time a spread was that big, not the last time Notre Dame and Alabama met. That's sorry.
Well, so just real quick before we move on to the NFL, what do you think of the biggest underdog, Notre Dame? I mean, at plus 220 or 2,200 odds for the championship odds, that's tremendous value out of only just 4 teams, but Alabama's just a monumental task. And the fact that Notre Dame wasn't able to beat Clemson the second time around when they were fully loaded, not too confident with their ability to handle Alabama.
Right, well, that's the thing. The last time we saw Notre Dame, no one thought they looked very impressive. And I think that's what we're all going on. So maybe Notre Dame comes out and surprises us, but I can't back them off that last performance, Higgins. No way. If anything in this game, I'm leaning Alabama minus 19.5. It's too big for me to take, but that's where I'd lean.
Yeah, the spread is very, very large in that game. I'd consider the over. I think Alabama's definitely going to put up a good amount of points, and I think it's just a matter of if the Fighting Irish can get a few scores. If they can, I don't see a reason why that 65.5 doesn't cover because it's hard to stop Alabama from scoring like 40.
Yeah, 45-21 gets it done. So maybe that's in play.
But let's move on to the NFL, where there is a lot that is in play, including a 5-10 team and a 6-9 team that are playing for the potential to have a playoff spot. Brett, this NFC East has been abysmal all year, and it's been the butt of the joke for the entire league all year. But the reality is, there's going to be a team that is at most 7-9 as the 4 seed in the NFC this year. And it's a joke, but it's a fact. And if the Giants do it at 6-10, that would set a record. But also traveling to New York would be interesting to do in the playoffs, and I don't know if I'd want to do it. I We've said this before. I'm not ashamed of my fanmanship necessarily. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not a Giants fan. I am. I've grown up a Giants fan. So I'm going to bet the way that I'm going to root this weekend in this, and that means I'm taking the Giants money line at plus 110 over the Dallas Cowboys, because the Giants or Dallas both have a shot, but they both would need Washington to lose to Philly in Sunday night. So I'll also be taking Philly at plus 104 in that Sunday night matchup. But the Giants need a little bit of help. Jalen Hurts seems like the best quarterback in the NFC East right now for Philadelphia, so I'm betting on that in Sunday Night Football. And Giants-Cowboys is always just a absolute brawl of a game, and I'm excited to watch that.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta feel good that it's a home game, Higgins, more or less for the division. So you gotta feel good that and a home dog. Sure, why not? Why not bet on the Giants? A huge game, biggest game of the year.
And it's always great to bet against the public. 74% of the money is on Dallas' spread at minus 2.5.
There you go. So, maybe you'll build the Higgins Casino. There you go.
Maybe.
That's the dream.
So what do you like with this weekend, though? It's a very interesting Week 17 because there's some teams that are playing for a lot, and then there's some that it'll be a big question mark on who actually gets up to play.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. You mentioned you're on the Philly-Washington game. I'm on Philly-Washington also. Another meaningful game in the NFC East. Philadelphia is plus 104. You said that's where you're at. I like taking points, Higgins. I don't like giving points back to the sports book. So I'll be on them on the plus 1.5. And that saves our pillars a little bit there, because technically Philadelphia could still lose the game. So we're betting on different things. So
Absolutely.
pillars are safe. Good. And then you mentioned some teams aren't playing for very much. You're right. The Raiders and the Broncos are not playing for very much, Higgins. But you know who will show up? The altitude. The altitude will show up, and Denver getting plus 2.5. It just feels like Denver wins that one. But again, I like taking the points, so I'll take Denver plus 2.5 at home for nothing.
You are absolutely right, Brett. The altitude is always there in Mile High Stadium, so plus 2.5 in Week 17. I like it. Neither team has much to play for, so why not bet on the young, charismatic Drew Lock? If that's who starts for Denver, but you never know with these games.
Yeah, that's a fair point. You never know, but I'm not really too concerned about who's playing quarterback for Denver, because Fangio's going to run it and play defense anyway.
Well, there's a few other interesting games that are going on that have either seeding implications, maybe wild card implications. The Tennessee-Houston game, I like. Right now, that line's sitting at 7.5, though, Brett, in favor of Tennessee. So I would wait to see if that got under a touchdown if I were to touch that. But I'm staying away from that right now. What do you think about your Jets being only 3.5-point dogs in New England in Week 17?
I mean, I guess if they start Stidham, anything's possible. I don't think we're going to lose to a Cam-led Patriots team, but I don't know. I mean, the Jets could end the year on a 3-game winning streak, Higgins.
And the good news is you could win this game and the Jets wouldn't move in draft spots. They couldn't fall down to 3. So luckily, whether it's 2 wins or 3 wins, maybe ride that on a high note. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems like a lot of back doors are wide open this week. Jacksonville plus 14. I actually see them at plus 14 and a half over on the East Coast here. So, that feels like it's open as a backdoor cover versus Indy. Uh, Tennessee, you mentioned at minus 7.5. That feels like Houston's going to be right in there. Like it's going to be like a 3-4 point game right there down to the end. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, even though they're starting Mason Rudolph, 10 points is a lot in a division game. And Mike Tomlin had some very strong comments about how they're going in there to win. It doesn't matter who's playing, like they're going for the dub. So just some interesting big lines where I guess the teams that are getting the points aren't playing for very much, but that playing with house money is dangerous, Higgins.
Playing with house money is dangerous. You're right. It'll be very interesting to see how these NFL playoffs shake out. It'll all happen on Sunday, though. We were blessed the past couple weeks with some Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We've had some Sunday, Monday, Tuesday football. We had a Wednesday game, some great Thursday night football action, but all of week 17 comes down to Sunday. And the NFC East will be the last one that is decided, and rather fittingly for how atrociously they have played. But it'll be a very, very interesting Sunday to watch. Whether your team's in it or not, there's plenty to play for. Let's
How
move on to
bad?
Moneyline Magic, though. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm in. Or we could just do the NFC East show. Whatever you want, Higgins.
Well, the Moneyline Magic is a game that you and I both had a stake in from episode 103, and that is Liberty versus Coastal Carolina. Now, you and I were on opposite sides of this one. You came out the victor in it, and it was rather impressive because you picked Liberty, who was a, 7.5 point underdog, and they ended up winning outright. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
Well, that's why it's Moneyline Magic, Higgins. It is magical.
It is. And Liberty controlled most of the game. They scored first, and they maintained that lead, lengthened it. Coastal Carolina would score and shorten it and come back, but Liberty had the lead throughout the first three quarters and into the fourth until Coastal Carolina put together a 72-yard drive and tied up the game at 34-34. But they left 2 full minutes on the clock, Brett, and that's just, especially in college football, where first down stop the clock. That's just way too much time.
I'm gonna be honest. When Coastal came back and tied it up at 34 apiece, I was not feeling so great. I mean, I was feeling okay because I had the hook, but I was like, wow, they're really going to blow this game. So, like, I kind of felt differently than you. I kind of felt like this is not going very well. The momentum's going the other way.
Yes, but you did have the hook. I felt like as a 7.5 point favorite that I was on the wrong side and it was gonna not go well for me with Coastal Carolina. And as Liberty marched down the field, I just kept feeling like they were gonna lose outright. They were gonna lose outright. They were gonna lose outright. Second and goal. Fumble! Pig skin on the ground. And Coastal Carolina recovers the ball on their own 1 yard line. Absolute break of the day.
Yeah, no, that was huge. And you're right. The hook did keep me feeling safe in this the whole time. But yeah, I mean, you never want to see your team blow a lead for 3 quarters or drive 74 yards and then fumble on the 5 after blowing a lead for 3 quarters, Higgins. This was
When a
not
field goal
my
would have won
ideal.
the game.
Yeah,
When a
this
field goal would have won the game.
I could have gotten paid a little bit earlier. The whole thing was a little more stressful than it needed to be.
Instead, this game goes to overtime. Chanticleer's defense is out there and they step up. They force a 3 and out, and Liberty kicks a field goal. So They give Coastal Carolina's offense a chance to win the game. But Grayson McCall, the quarterback, the freshman, and Coastal Carolina, I believe he's a true freshman too. 3 straight incomplete passes, and they have to settle for a 42-yard field goal attempt. It gets blocked. He doesn't miss it. It gets blocked. Liberty wins with a walk-off field goal block.
Exactly how we drew it up at Liberty. All of us Liberty backers, we knew that it was going to come down to a field goal in overtime, and when it came down to that, we had the guys, the personnel to block that field goal, and just really want to thank God, our parents, and everyone who backed Liberty because it was a great moment.
Well, it absolutely was for Liberty, the underdogs, to get the win in a game that was a rematch from a December 5th cancellation that kind of put Coastal Carolina on the national map, stole the thunder away from Liberty, who had played a very, very good season against a lot of ACC teams and came out with a very impressive record as well. But Coastal Carolina stole the thunder. Liberty got the last laugh, though.
Really, what stood out to me, Higgins, is that in Coastal's last 2 games, they kind of stumbled out of the gate. They were down big early to Troy, and then they were down big early to Liberty. And I'm not sure if that means teams have started to figure out Coastal's offense or what exactly it means, but that is definitely a trend I noticed. They have gone down big. They've been able to fight back, though, Higgins, and that's important, too.
Well, for you Liberty backers, Coastal Carolina backers, it's perfect season, perfect excuse to go get some apparel and support that team. You should be proud of the season those two teams and programs put on. And that brings us to our ad. Today's episode is brought to you by Fanatics. Fanatics is the world's largest collection of official fan gear from all the teams, leagues, and players you love. If you enjoy our show and are looking to buy a new jersey, sweatshirt, or hat, you can support us by going to podgo.co/fanatics and getting 25% off your next order. That's podgo.co/fanatics. Fanatics officially licensed everything, and that includes some college apparel as well, so go take a look at that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been a while since our Syracuse Orange have played, but I might need some new swag for the next time they get on the court, Higgins. They've worn those script jerseys the last 2 times they played. I love the script Q's jerseys. You can get those at Fanatics. Those are fire.
Those should just be, that script should be the actual home jersey.
Definitely.
The fans love it. Just do it. Just do it.
Except we lose all the time, so maybe we shouldn't. Maybe Bayheim's onto something. I don't know. Now I'm debating it.
We'll maybe get some Big Ten or Pac-12 apparel like what we have going on for some Thursday night basketball. You'll find me on the Big Ten. You're on the Pac-12, Brett. And first off, I just got to say I love this over in the Minnesota-Wisconsin game. Wisconsin's favored by 7.5. I don't necessarily know what side this game's going to go. I think these are two great teams that have each played rather well. I mean, you got Wisconsin ranked 6th, Minnesota ranked 21st. But Minnesota only has 1 loss. Wisconsin has 2. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. Over 143.5. Fun fact, Brett, both of these teams so far, 7-3 when hitting overs.
You want to know another fun fact, Higgins?
What?
In the last week, I bet Michigan State to beat Wisconsin. They lost. And then I bet Michigan State to beat Minnesota, and they lost. So I clearly know nothing about these teams, and no one should listen to me on either of these teams, so I'll shut up now.
Well, I'm going to take over 143.5. Minnesota games have hit the over by an average of 8 points. Wisconsin games by an average of 3, just over 3. So both of them have a little bit of wiggle room too. Still might come down to the wire. Should be a very interesting game. But then there's also Michigan at Maryland, and Brett, I like Michigan minus 1.5 here. I mean, it's the number 16 ranked team in the league. They're 7-0, and they're 5-2 against the spread so far. Whereas Maryland, they're about 50-50 on the spread. They're 5-4 against the spread, 6-3 overall so far this year. think Michigan's just the better team, and that -1.5, even though they're on the road, there's no real fans you have to worry about with these games in most situations, so they should be fine. -1.5 is basically like picking a money line.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Higgins, I like that Michigan play a lot as well. That one was probably one of my favorites of the night, but I stayed off of it. I saw you were there. Gotta keep the pillars intact. Can't give any more losses to us in 2020.
Well,
We're gonna
and you
take the
said Michigan
finish.
doesn't like you. Michigan State lost for you, so maybe you just have to leave the state for a little
Maybe,
bit. Bet
yeah.
on
I'm
some
just
other
gonna
Big
leave
Ten.
the state. Yeah, that's a good
Bet on some
call.
other Big Ten teams.
Right. Well, so I'm going out to the West Coast, like you said. Uh, Zona plays at Washington. Arizona just gave themselves a postseason ban. But Washington's really bad this year. They've been a disappointing team. So Zona -7.5. I'm all over that. I think Arizona could win this one easily by double digits. So I think that's the play there. Every game for Arizona is their only chance to show off how good this team is because they will not be playing in the Pac 12 tournament. They will not be playing in the NCAA tournament. So they might as well win as many games as they can now, Higgins.
So, a self-imposed ban to me just really punishes the kids that are currently in your program. It doesn't necessarily do anything for the actual transgressions. And in a coronavirus season where the coronavirus canceled March Madness last year, the exposure rate in America right now is at an all-time high. So I'm not confident that there would be one potentially this year, even though we're seeing college football playoffs going on right now. I just don't know how seriously I would take self-imposed bans if, as the NCAA looking at a scenario. It doesn't say much to me. But you're right. It doesn't mean the kids will play any less hard. I don't think.
Yeah, I agree. It only punishes the kids that are there, but that's what they decided to do. So be it, I guess. But you're right. It does not solve any of the issues.
It really doesn't. Some other games of note on Thursday night. Cal at Oregon, another top 25 matchup. Utah versus UCLA, another interesting Pac-12 matchup. Some good late night games. I haven't looked, but I might have to tune into whichever one Bill Walton's calling because he always entertains me with his ability to have an entire basketball game going on in front of him and just not talk about it.
Yeah, well,
You can watch the game. I'm going to talk about something else, and it's always entertaining,
that
but it's
is
hysterically.
definitely his specialty. Oh man, you hit the nail on the head there.
Let's move on to the NBA though. And Brett, I really wasn't able to get a good read on any of these games. It's pretty early in the NBA season, and I decided I'm going to stay away from Thursday night. Watch some NBA games this week. Maybe make a pick in our episode 105 on Sunday night.
Yeah, so quick notes, I guess then. Sacramento's been pretty impressive, Higgins. And they're +4.5 versus Houston, who, I mean, Harden's been really good, but they've kind of been So that's a spot I was looking at. I decided to stay off of it. I wasn't ready to back it. But two spots I really liked: the 4-0 Orlando Magic getting points at home against the Philadelphia 76ers. And if people remember last year, the road Sixers, not very good, Higgins. The home Sixers, very good. The road Sixers, not very good. So I'll take an undefeated team at home against the Philadelphia 76ers because I'm going to assume they haven't fixed all those problems yet. And then the other spot I really like, Higgins, New York travels to Toronto. RJ Barrett's from Toronto, so maybe he plays a little bit harder and a little extra motivation at home. Doesn't really matter to me. Toronto actually just lost to Philadelphia. Um, I want to say it was on Tuesday night. And I think Toronto comes back and bounces back strong against New York. They cover the 9 here. Toronto's a top 5 team in the East, Higgins, in my opinion. And the Knicks are not there yet. I think they're building. I think they're improving, but they're not. They're not at Toronto's level yet. So Toronto at home, Orlando at home. I like them both. One's a favorite, one's a dog.
Yeah, you mentioned that Houston game at the top of your bets right there, and I was kind of in the same spot as you, where Sacramento's played a lot better, but how long will Houston stay winless? Makes me kind of wonder. But they are still favorites at -4.5, so they could still win and not cover.
Right.
But then there's also Washington against the Bulls at home, and I didn't see a line out for that game yet. But Washington at 0-4, Bulls 1-3 coming in, seems like it could be the perfect chance for maybe them to get their first win. I don't know. It's still very early in the season. The Pelicans and the Thunder game, I almost wanted to pick the Pelicans on this, but if you look at it very early, Pelicans haven't covered their games early and the Thunder have. Last year, the Thunder were one of the worst teams at covering the spread, if I remember correctly.
No, they were the best.
Oh, were they the best? Okay, I'm remembering it backwards. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see how those trends carry over from last year, at least in the early season.
Yeah. And I think to your point, with that New Orleans game, they become a little bit of a public team, Higgins. So maybe you're buying a few extra points there. Like, maybe in that Cowboys game, maybe the Giants should really be the favorite. But, America's team -2.
Absolutely. I mean, that was the Oregon book. Maybe the New Jersey book would be potentially a little different for that, like, New York bet. Maybe that New York would be closer to a favorite in that, since I'm in more of a nation's market or America's team market potentially with an Oregon book.
So do you want the fun fact of the night, Higgins?
Sure.
In New Jersey, the Cowboys are 2.5-point favorites.
Oh. Okay, so they're 2-point favorites in Oregon, 2.5-point favorites in New Jersey. Okay.
So now I'd like to know where your brain's at. That's really all I want to know now.
Oregon doesn't like Texas?
Oregon hates Texas. All right.
That's the headline.
There we go. Well, okay, so that was question 1. Question 2. I need to know how I'm fading you, so give me your POP, Higgins.
Yes, as we have learned, my pick of the pod is by no means a lock. If anything, it is what you should fade me at in every podcast. I think I'm 0 for 6 in the last 6 episodes.
This is where you turn it around.
That's why I'm going with Minnesota, Wisconsin over 143.5. They're each 7-3 so far this season in hitting their overs. I think they will come together and they will hit this over rather handedly. Maybe it's an 80 to 80 point game and we walk away as early winners. Hopefully. I'm turning it around with this one. I feel it.
All right, there you go. So fade the Minnesota Wisconsin over, everyone. Fade. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone go tail Higgins because this is where he turns it around.
I got you right where I want you, Book.
My Levy lock, which I actually won on the last episode, it was Milwaukee -9 on Christmas Day. So hopefully you listen to that because you could have turned that off in halftime. But Arizona travels to Washington. Arizona's -7.5. I would take Arizona. I think they win by double digits, Higgins. Now, double digits could only mean 10, but that still covers by 2.5 points. So, not really sweating, I guess, would be the adjective.
All right, so going with the college basketball for the Levy lock and the pick of the pod. You were right. You won your Levy lock last episode, so thank you very much for giving me the honors there. I appreciate it.
I faded already. I got the app open. I faded. I was like, okay, so my Levy lock is the Wisconsin-Minnesota under.
Well, we will see how those go. Make sure to follow us on social media for other picks in between this episode and next. at NBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel. Thank you for tuning in with us. This has been episode 104 of the Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you again after the weekend.